Hey.
Hey
Hey,
guys.
everybody.
Welcome. Happy Thursday.
Friday
So,
Eve.
we got Kim and her
Fan down by the river.
by the river. Yep. Setting up in her car again. So that's awesome. Good. I hope you're still in your safer place.
Yeah, I am. I park right up front now, and
Good.
I feel safer here. And also my son is in. It's his last class. He's actually taking his final tonight, so I won't have to do this down by the river anymore. I don't think. We're going to schedule his other classes tomorrow, so I don't know what that's going to look like, but I told him we're going to try to get him like during the day and like have him where I can drop you off and then pick you up a few hours later.
So does he not drive?
No, not yet. But until he gets his license, I mean, he can get it anytime. It's just kids these days, they don't get their license right away like we did.
I know. I had to force my kids when they turned 18.
Yeah.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey, Cindy.
Hey.
Nice to see you here. You're heading out. Where are you going? Just going out to the store, maybe? I don't know.
But did you know that Cindy lives about 30 minutes down the road from me?
Are you serious?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we've never like been to each other's houses or anything, but yeah, I mean, I've seen her twice at Keto Palooza, like met her in person twice, but isn't that funny?
Well, you know who's moving to Kentucky? Oh, we bowl tonight. Nice.
Oh, cool.
How fun. You know who's moving to the border in Kentucky, but the border, I guess it's like close to the border of Tennessee do you guys know Rebecca Bavery?
I've heard the name, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know she's like a keto person, but I don't know.
She's carnivore. She's one of Dr. Barry's health coaches.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she works with me with Healing Humanity too. So she told us yesterday because her husband's in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And
he got
an assignment there. So they were hoping for
Clarksville, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Did you hear there's going to be no what is that?
No Keto Palooza?
What? Okay.
Why are they not doing it? Did they say? I mean,
I knew that Autumn, the person that puts it on, the lady that puts it on, I knew that it's just a lot of work for her and stuff. And I know she's talked about not doing it before, but then she decided to do it again this year. And I was so glad she did because it was so awesome.
So you guys need to plan on coming to Hack Your Health.
Oh,
it is.
Tennessee.
It's going to be in Florida in November.
Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see it yet, Cindy.
Oh, all right. So maybe try to see if you guys can come to Hack Your Health. That'd be awesome. It's going to be in Tampa, Florida in November.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be there. Our Healing Humanity team is going to plan on being there. And we'd love to have everybody that can come.
I actually like that they're calling it Hack Your Health now. I know people were kind of like, oh, they weren't crazy about that at first, but I think that's better because I think that, for just me personally, I feel like, when you fall off the wagon and you're not doing keto anymore, you're not doing carnivore anymore, and you're kind of in between, you're just like figuring life out. It feels like you're just like not part of the group anymore,
Yeah, no, it's a good title.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cindy says hurricane season in November. Yes, it is. The Atlantic hurricane season begins June 1st and ends November 30th of each year. Historically, the most active time for hurricane development is mid-August through mid-October. So hopefully
the hurricanes will be done.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we know how things went this year. I mean, that was absolutely horrible. So I know they chose Florida in November, which I don't know. I mean, to me, they could have chosen January and I think it would have gone over just fine.
I think January might have been more likely for a lot of people, just because November. Well, you're saving up for Christmas. Plus you're doing holiday preps and stuff. You just
right because this year's Hack Your Health was end of May, like early June, and so Yeah, it's interesting that they chose November. So I guess, we'll see if there's still a big turnout. And I'm assuming it's not close to Thanksgiving, so we may be like right at the tail of the hurricanes, the big hurricanes. So we'll see. Let's see. She says, Robin, who coordinates Hack Your Health, is from Tampa. Yeah, I heard that. So obviously that's the reason for the location. And Tampa's great. I just would have preferred it be January, but I guess they had to have one in 2025. And who wants to go to Florida in June or July? It's hot.
And that's where I always go.
Oh my gosh, not me. I would be having to stay indoors all the time.
No, because it's like the perfect, the water is like the perfect temperature in June and July.
Yeah, it would be too humid, hot and humid for me. But then I thought Texas was going to be too hot and humid, but I know Florida's a lot more humid than Texas. So I don't know. We'll see.
The humidity, and I'm from Kentucky. It's humid here.
Yeah, it's humid in Tennessee.
I'm not used to it. I'm not, even though it's can be rainy, it's really not a very humid climate where, here in Washington. So yeah, you can go all year and have maybe 2 days where the humidity you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's really kind of rare. So
yeah, our summers are, for the most part, it's just humidity the whole summer.
Yeah. See,
here in Tennessee and in the middle Tennessee area. Yeah.
I've been in really bad humidity before, where it's like triple digits and humid in Branson. And I just went there the wrong time. They just happened to be having a heat wave. And it took me probably 4 or 5 days to feel like I was adjusted to it. But I did get adjusted. I had to be drinking water constantly. And I had the, the scarf thingy that has those little white beads that will expand. You soak it in water and it'll keep you cool. That was a lifesaver. That kept me, that helped me survive. But okay. So if anyone is new, we are going through this book here. It is called Ketogenic, the Science of Therapeutic Carbohydrate Restriction in Human Health. It is a medical textbook. And unlike a book club, we're not reading ahead. We are reading and discussing as we go. So we are close to finishing chapter 2. Maybe we can finish chapter 2 today. That would be awesome. But we left off at section 2.4.6, recommended dietary requirements. So what do you want to? I know I started reading last week, so if either of you want to start reading,
I can go.
Okay.
So 2.4.6, recommended dietary requirements, as reviewed by Mark Schatzer. Fortification of feed with the B vitamins niacin, thiamine, and riboflavin can be used effectively to fatten livestock. Likewise, in rats, pregnant dams fed very high doses of B vitamins display more metabolic syndromes, like MetSyn, components post-weaning in response to obesogenic diets, as do their offspring. In humans, fortification with B vitamins and infant formulas with high B vitamins are associated with higher rates of obesity, and it has been suggested that this may be due to their roles in fat storage.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I did not either.
Okay, and my naturopathic doctor has me on a complex that has a lot of B vitamins in it. So, and my weight has been stalled. So I'm like,
Oh,
I didn't know that.
So I guess to me, then there is also like a very delicate balancing act that we have to follow, because obviously B vitamins are important.
Well, I had folate deficiency.
Yeah. So, and they're important. You can definitely, especially there again, like with vegetarians and vegans, that if they don't get enough protein, B vitamins is an issue for them. So,
right.
This is interesting. I never really heard this before but it says high B vitamins.
Right. So, how is that defined?
That's a good question. Hopefully they'll tell us. I don't know. I never really thought about high B vitamins. So I guess we'll see. Okay. So this may interact, unfortunately, with the increased fattening capacity of fructose. In one early experiment, rats were given diets varying in carbohydrate source and levels of niacin. It was discovered that when enough niacin was provided to support a glucose galactose carbohydrate source, the same amount of niacin was insufficient to support sucrose, fructose, starch, dextrin, or glucose. Each of these induced some degree of niacin deficiency, but especially fructose and sucrose, which contains fructose. This not only shows that certain carbohydrates can increase niacin need, but it also means that increasing available niacin allows for increased sucrose and fructose intake without symptoms of niacin deficiency. Regardless of mechanism, these findings suggest caution in treating micronutrients as if more is always better and safer.
So I wonder if if you're not eating sucrose and fructose and glucose, if you're not eating carbs,
Mm-hmm.
are the B vitamins going to promote fat storage? Because it says that they interact with the increasing fattening capacity of fructose. But if you're not eating anything containing fructose, then would it you even have to worry about it?
Right. That's kind of what I'm wondering.
Right, because it's an association. It's not a cause. It's not causative. It's an association. Can you guys hear my gardener with the leaf blower?
I don't.
I do.
You can.
Yeah.
He's like right outside my window. Sorry, he won't.
It's okay. I'm in a van down by the river, so.
Well, there's a train going by. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but
it's all good.
He's usually here on Wednesdays, but he came today, and of course he decides that he doesn't know I'm on a live stream.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, so I'm wondering if it's just like you don't have to worry about it if you're not consuming these sugars.
I don't know. It sounds awfully vague to me.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean,
it's almost like you have to, like sort of stick your finger in the air and see which way the wind blows.
It's just, I don't know.
Maybe if we were taking this like in a class or as a course, that this would be something that the instructor would have dug in a little deeper and could expound and say, okay, this is how they define high.
Right.
Yeah. Because it does have, it does have references. So you could always go look at the source reference and find out if they defined it.
Your body is pretty well equipped to get rid of vitamins that it doesn't need. Now, I think the what is it? A, D, E, and K would be like the extent. Like those can build up more easily in your system because they're the fat soluble vitamins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like water soluble vitamins. I mean, I'm not saying this book's wrong or I know more than the book. I certainly don't. But like your body, it has a mechanism for getting rid of excess supplements and stuff like that. So
and you probably have more excess if you're not eating the sugars. So whereas if you're eating the sugars, this is where it comes in. The B vitamins will help it with fat storage. And if you're not eating the sugars, maybe if you're consuming higher B vitamins, it'll just get rid of whatever you're not using.
Yeah, like Dr. Berry says, you'll just pee it out.
Pee it out.
I mean, that's what I've always heard is as long as you have adequate kidney and liver function, your body is pretty well equipped to get rid of any excess.
Right.
But anyway, let's go ahead.
Let's see what else they've got for us here. So it is important to remember that recommendations for intake of micronutrients, such as the USRDA's, are not intended to apply to individuals, but rather populations. and are therefore overestimates in the sense that they aim to be enough to cover the majority of people. Since biological values such as nutrient needs tend to vary in a Gaussian pattern, normal curve. We're talking about like standard deviation, I guess. A good RDA would aim to be enough for people who need up to 2 standard deviations above the average, or IBID. That means, by definition, they are higher than necessary for most people, although the variance may be small. So see figure
That
2.6.
is so opposite of what I hear so many people say.
Yeah, they try to act like it's just the minimum, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
that we don't.
that's what we were talking about last week with iodine.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is weird. I'm like y'all. I mean, I've heard like from Dr. Berry and different ones talking about iodine, like we were talking last week. And it was my understanding that most of us, like the RDA is barely enough to keep you from getting goiters.
Right. Well, so I guess the question is that are they basing their RDA on this is how much you need to prevent disease? And we are looking at it from what do you need to optimize your health?
Yeah.
Because there could be a huge gap between those two standards of measurement.
And I guess that goes along too with like eating carbohydrates, or like what you're eating and how that factors into how your body processes certain things. Like we were talking about last week about iodine, and I believe it's fluoride that competes. And so therefore
Bromide.
people are consuming and bromide. And so if you have that, then you're going to need more iodine. So in that sense, people receiving the RDA wouldn't be getting enough because they're consuming these other things that block it or prevent you from using it appropriately.
Well, in its first job, and it will displace the other halides.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so we're looking at from iodine, we're looking at, RDA of 400 micrograms versus like Dr. Brownstein, who's like a minimum of 25 milligrams.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's like a massive difference. But he's looking at it from giving you enough for your whole body's needs, not just thyroid's needs to prevent goiter.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I had gotten into an interesting discussion with a friend regarding labs and like and of course the person was talking to me about cholesterol and that their cholesterol was a little elevated, and I said, well, how high is your, in the LDL specifically? And I said, well, how high is your LDL? And they said 105. And I about fell over because mine's like 4 times that, just my LDL. But I and I told him, I was like, labs are taken, and like a lot of them, I've heard Dr. Berry talk about this, that we all agree that the population as a whole is leaning very much toward being metabolically unhealthy. Yeah. And a lot of labs are just, they take averages. So it's population averages. So what is considered average may not be healthy at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's based on a generally unhealthy population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if my LDL cholesterol was real low, I'd be worried because now we know the association between things like Alzheimer's and, it's like, no, I want mine to be higher, not lower.
And especially for women, it's shown that as they age, the higher your cholesterol is, the healthier you are.
Yeah, and the lower your risk is of cardiovascular events and strokes and all
that. But overall, I think it's all-cause mortality.
All-cause mortality, goes down as the LDL goes up.
Well, so when you're dealing with cholesterol, I thought it was like total cholesterol. I've heard that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it is total cholesterol, but
to a certain age, though. I think it's like
65.
It's like 60 something and above, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So,
but it's just interesting about the whole population thing because I can see where some of this can be skewed because of what people are eating, their overall health. And so, and as we were talking before too, those of us who do keep our carbohydrate intake on the lower end, we might not need as much iodine as someone else who is not, and who is also eating or consuming like the fluoride and the bromide and all of that. So it's interesting to figure out, like maybe that studies could be done of people who eat certain diets, and I don't know if they've tried to do that, but like isolate, okay, what are lab values for people who eat below this amount of carbs, like, and in terms of not just your traditional, because I know they test your cholesterol, but like other things,
yeah.
like your iodine and.
Well, unfortunately, it's in our country, at least, it's very difficult to avoid bromide because it's in so much. It's in your, I mean, it's in on your furniture, fabrics. It's everywhere, so it's so much in our environment. It's not just in bread. I mean, yeah, they did use it as an additive for bread, but it just seems like it's everywhere. So it's really hard to avoid bromide exposure. It's probably maybe a little easier to avoid the fluoride if you have like a really good water filter. And yeah, but I know I'm always surprised at things that I hear have fluoride. I just recently learned that fluoride is added to San Pellegrino. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, that's
it's interesting because, like you were saying, though, we tend to hear that the RDA is on the low end for everybody, and that everybody just needs so much more. And I guess, yeah, this is totally opposite, but I guess
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe we need to. It's really saying it's basically an overestimate of what you need to prevent disease.
Yeah,
well, that could be. Let's go ahead and see what else they say here. The way the quantities are estimated vary. In some cases, such as for niacin, they are intended to be enough to prevent frank deficiency diseases.
There we go.
In other cases, they are based on speculative rates to prevent metabolic disease. An example of this is the recommendation for vitamin C, which is much higher than what is needed to prevent scurvy. It is based on the presumption that higher doses may reduce the risk of developing diabetes or heart disease. When neither of these can be determined, for example, in the case of manganese, recommendations are based on population norms. And see, that's what I was getting at there. And then, so obviously, all of these can be affected by baseline diet. Therefore, when considering the dietary needs of individuals, we may wish to examine the assumptions behind specific recommendations before applying them.
That covered everything you just said.
That's wild. And no, I did not read it.
Like, I was just saying, we didn't read this.
We need to keep reading, ladies.
We did not read this ahead of time.
Nope.
No, chapter 2, we're going to have to read.
Yes, let's keep going.
Okay. So in conclusion, this is 2.4.7. The implications of this are far-reaching. Current knowledge about nutrient needs that are based on populations eating grain-based diets form the basis of hypotheses of our evolution. For example, it has been proposed that because the brain needs high levels of difficult-to-obtain nutrients such as iodine, zinc, and DHA, that a shore-based diet was critical for the development of the anatomically modern brain. Insofar as a diet low in carbohydrates and grain in particular may have been prominent until recently, the dietary requirements for these nutrients may have been less. In general, any diagnostic lab measurement for which we have established a normal range may need to be reevaluated in the ketogenic context.
Mm-hmm.
For example, just as T3 concentrations that may be indicative of hypothyroidism on a high carbohydrate diet do not always reflect hypothyroidism on a low carbohydrate diet. Mildly elevated cortisol in comparison to a high carbohydrate diet is not always indicative of MET syndrome. Indeed, to expect a value for a biological marker found on a ketogenic diet to include the same thing it would with respect to serum ranges established in the high carbohydrate metabolic context is the same fundamental error as conflating ketosis from diet with ketoacidosis. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
You want me to go?
Yep.
All right, 2.5, plant versus animal nutrition. This is by Amber O'Hearn. When we talk about nutrition, we frequently focus on essential micronutrients. As the phrase implies, these are minute particles of crucial importance. They rose to prominence only recently, replacing the previously more acute problem of starvation due to a lack of energy or protein. Protein, energy, and malnutrition is still common in many parts of the world, but when meeting these needs using grains and legumes, micronutrition deficits remain a problem, as reflected by worldwide efforts to fortify these diets with vitamins and minerals. Study of malnutrition in countries where grains and legumes form the basis of the diet reveals that all major nutrients of concern, including iron, zinc, vitamin A, and B vitamins, could be provided with higher intake of animal sourced foods. This is largely because animal sourced foods are generally more replete with micronutrients, and those micronutrients are more bioavailable when coming from animal sources rather than plant sources. This increased bioavailability results either because the forms of the vitamins are more directly usable, as is the case, for example, with vitamin A, which occurs in plants only as a precursor, or because the plant forms are difficult to absorb, often being chemically bound, such as they pass through the digestive system inaccessibly or packaged with phytates and other anti-nutrients that block absorption. In the case of iron, where there are two types, heme iron, which is found in only meat, and non-heme iron, which is found in both plants and animal foods. Heme iron is much more absorbable than non-heme iron, a fact which is considered detrimental in cases of hemochromatosis. However, it should be emphasized that hemochromatosis is not caused by high intake of iron, but rather a genetic or medically induced disruption or hepcidin, a hormone that regulates iron absorption. Another reason that simply increasing animal source foods could alleviate a variety of deficiencies is that in general, a given animal source food has a relatively comprehensive nutrient profile when compared to plant foods, which typically need to be balanced, complemented with intake of specific other plant foods to cover all needs. These concerns make animal-based diets more nutritionally precarious.
Plant paste.
I'm sorry. These concerns make plant-based diets more nutritionally precarious, but with care and education, they can be made to supply almost all essential nutrients with the exception of B12, which would have to be supplemented.
And that explains why they're told to eat the rainbow and to make sure your plate is a rainbow.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna need to make sure you have tons of variety if you want to get the nutrients.
Given that energy, protein, and nearly all essential micronutrients can be obtained from either plants or animals, the choice appears to be based on personal preferences or non-nutritionally motivated factors at first. However, the components that accompany the essential nutrients, as well as the specific forms of energy and protein, have health consequences. We will look at fatty acid and amino acid profiles, as well as bioactives, nutrients that have physiological effects other than nutrition found in plant and animal foods. We can better understand the role of different dietary components from the perspective of the immune system, which is responsible for maintaining clearly defined limits of self. The immune system's primary functions are to maintain boundaries between self and non self, deciding what to allow inside to incorporate into ourselves, and to repair and grow our tissues, deciding what to tear down, recycle, or eliminate, and what to keep and reinforce. When seen in this light, it is clear that digestion and absorption are just as much immunological functions as rejection and the defense in response to unwanted components. They are, in fact, two different outcomes of the same immunological process. With this lens in mind, two distinctions are useful for evaluating a biochemical. The first is about potential origins. An endogenous compound is one that the body creates, whereas an exogenous compound is one that comes from outside the body. If a compound cannot be produced endogenously, it must be foreign. If it cannot be made endogenously, we can call it domestic. Okay, did I read that right?
If it can be made endogenously.
Yeah, if
it can be made endogenously, we can call it domestic or synthesizable regardless of actual origin. The body should not be able to tell the origin of a domestic compound after entry. The second distinction is between utility and requirement, as illustrated below. Here. With these two distinctions, we can classify incoming food components into four groups. The first two groups include components of food that are required or usable by the body. Food components we require and are not synthesizable are the essential nutrients. This is the definition of a vitamin, a biologically generated, i.e., non-mineral compound we cannot make ourselves, but we need. A very important and unappreciated class of components are known as conditionally essential nutrients. These are required nutrients that can be obtained from food, but because we have the ability to synthesize them, they are not considered essential. They're considered essential only conditionally upon inadequate synthesis. One issue with this classification is that adequate synthesis is not always possible. Even if a deficiency can be created by not consuming an exogenous source, such as a nutrient, will always be relegated to conditionally essential status based on the technical definition of essential. DHA is an example of this with infants. Human babies can synthesize DHA from the omega-3 precursor alpha-linoleic acid, or ALA. However, infant formulas contain it because synthesis is deemed insufficient for optimal brain growth. However, note, that a Cochrane review found no difference in vision or neurodevelopment in full-term babies fed formula without added long-chain polyunsaturated fatty acids compared to those fed LCPUFA. Okay,
long chain polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Supplemented formula. This may be due to an accessibility of stored LC-PUFAs in infant adipose tissue. All right, this is really long. Somebody else want to read?
Sure, I can pick up from there. Components of food that are not required or usable are also of two kinds. If they are synthesizable, then they are necessarily familiar to the immune system, which should already have pathways to eliminate them as waste. On the other hand, if they are foreign, they are called xenobiotics, xeno meaning foreign, and the immune system will mount a defense against them, minimizing absorption and prioritizing excretion should they pass through. Xenobiotics can also have anti-nutrient activity, meaning that their action is subtractive, resulting in a net increased need for nutritive elements. With these conceptual distinctions, we can now make more sense of the bodily responses to animal and plant-derived bioactives, depending on whether their biological effects result from immune activation, as with xenobiotics, or from nutritional enhancement, as with conditionally essential nutrients. Plant food advocates frequently cite the beneficial effects of bioactives found only in plants as evidence that plant-based foods should be included and prioritized in the human diet. In accordance with the promotion of recognition of these effects, there is a recent trend to rename phytochemicals, phyto meaning plant, as phytonutrients. One early but ultimately incorrect idea about how plant bioactives might promote health is based on the fact that some phytochemicals exhibit antioxidant properties in vitro, which combined with the contemporaneous antioxidant theory of aging to suggest that plant-derived antioxidants should improve health and longevity. Boyad and Bon thus laid out a novel argument for eating plant foods specifically for antioxidation outlined below. So, one, in vitro, certain phytochemicals have prevented cell death due to excess oxidation. However, at high doses, the effect is reversed and oxidation is actually increased. Two, in human trials, plant-derived antioxidants not only did not provide benefits, but may have been detrimental. Three, supplements have orders of magnitude higher doses of phytochemicals than what is obtained from eating plants. Four, epidemiologically, plant eating is associated with positive health outcomes. Five, therefore, eating plants must correspond to the beneficial low-dose case of exogenous antioxidants. There are two problems with this argument. The first is that plant foods cannot deliver the quantities of phytochemicals clinically shown to have benefit. For example, the polyphenol resveratrol, which has been shown to increase lifespan in some, but not all animal studies, is found in common foods such as grapes, chocolate, apples, and tomatoes. But the amount of those foods one would need to obtain a therapeutic dose would be in the hundreds or thousands of kilograms. Somewhat less dramatically, quercetin, found in highest amounts in onions and tea, has a bioavailability of about 1%, such that supplements intended for therapeutic doses contain about 100 times the amount normally obtained in a Western diet. Although for residents of Japan, this factor is reduced to 10 to 30. Sulforaphane is considered the most bioavailable of food-derived polyphenols with studied benefits, having orders of magnitude more bioavailability than other common polyphenols. However, many factors affect its abundance in plant sources. Dietary sulforaphane comes in significant quantities from cruciferous vegetables, which are all human-bred variations of the wild mustard plant. Of these, the highest in sulforaphane are raw cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, and broccoli sprouts. With a clinical dose of about 350 milligrams per day, this would take somewhere between 230 grams or half a pound and 1.5 kilograms or 3.5 pounds of raw broccoli daily to achieve a estimated content variation. That's a lot of broccoli.
Wow.
And
Especially raw.
Oh, and cruciferous vegetables make you gassy. Oh, okay. But not only is there variability such that a consumer cannot count on reaching this level at the lower end of intake, other components of the plant, such as myrosinase and epithiospecifier protein, can significantly affect the activation of sulforaphane and are not quantified. Moreover, cooking and even storage rapidly induces losses that would approximate double or triple the required portions. And since raw cruciferous vegetables also contain goitrogens that may be safe in small quantities, but less safe in larger doses that persist over long periods, Even a concerted, successful effort to obtain therapeutic concentrations of sulforaphane from food may cause as much harm as good. Another way to evaluate whether a beneficial antioxidant effect can be obtained from plant foods is to look directly at concentrations of antioxidant markers after eating a diet that includes them. However, in a meta-study looking for beneficial antioxidant effects from foods rich in flavonoids and other substances thought to have antioxidant properties, most had none, leaving the evidence equivocal at best. The authors speculated that this could be due to benefits only being available to those in poor health. Researchers looking at the wrong markers and thus missing a benefit that existed, or simply the fact that the same substances that can have antioxidant effects can also have pro-oxidant effects. This relates to the second issue with the argument. So, all right, Carrie, you want to pick it up from there?
Although some phytochemicals have antioxidant activity in vitro, the mechanism underlying antioxidant benefit stems from immune system activation in an attempt to prevent phytochemicals from entering the body, rather than their use in essential bodily functions as a nutrient is normally defined. The mechanism is via NF-E2 related factor, or 2NRF2, a transcription factor involved in regulating oxidation and detoxification, and its mammalian regulator Kelch-like ECH-associated protein.
So I want to just make sure I'm clear on what I'm understanding here. It sounds like what they're saying is that some of these chemicals in plants can create basically an autoimmune reaction.
That's the way I'm interpreting it.
Okay.
What about you, Kim? Is that what you're understanding too?
That was what I was understanding.
Okay.
Okay.
And you know, the fact that you would have to eat so much that it would be harmful in other ways from eating that much is like, wow, I truly just eat vegetables just for fun.
Yeah, and of course it was talking about raw, like in the cruciferous vegetables, and like I would, back when I ate some veg, I would occasionally eat some in a salad, but mostly I got to where if I ate any broccoli, let's say, or cauliflower at all, it would be steamed and it wouldn't be near that much of it.
Yeah.
And then it
had cheese on it, so I never ate it raw. So basically, I don't guess I was getting much of anything out of it.
Yeah, it has even less.
Yeah,
if you cook it. So
and I can't do the raw stuff.
So I have a question. I don't know if you ladies will know the answer to this or not, but thank you, Simpson, by the way.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure you saw that. Hey, Josephine.
I wanted to acknowledge it so you could put up Josephine. But anyway, so I have a question. So do you think that Lynn, you said that cruciferous vegetables cause a lot of gas, and I don't really have that experience. So I was wondering if maybe could that just be based on what your gut microbiome is?
Yeah, not everybody has that reaction. It just happens to be a common reaction.
Okay.
I
mean, I know some things like beans actually release gas while they're being, do cruciferous vegetables do that, or is it just, or do you think it's just a gut bacteria thing?
I don't know. I don't know specifically what it is about cruciferous vegetables that do that, but I know that when I was working in GI and we had patients that had a lot of gas, that was one of the first things that the doctor says is that stop the cruciferous vegetables. So
maybe across the board, maybe I just don't notice. I don't know.
A lot of people that have bloating, I would ask them, like, what do you eat? And a lot of times they would say, they would eat broccoli and cauliflower and asparagus and Brussels sprouts. And, that's, that, and they'd stop, they'd do a trial off of it and they would feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Josephine says, I did all night long. Yeah. It would cause, no more belly pains now. Yeah. So some people are particularly sensitive. I'm that way with cabbage in particular, like worse than some of the other cruciferous vegetables. Cabbage will just rip me up inside. And yeah, I feel horrible, so much gut pain. So I'm sure it has to do with the individual.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So excess oxidation is indeed a problem. Many diseases are associated with it, including heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Oxidation that is not kept in balance can lead to damage of lipids, protein, and even DNA. This observation led to the hypothesis that to combat these diseases, we should reduce the ROS that cause oxidation, IBID. However, preventing oxidation not only doesn't always improve the diseases it was targeted for, but actually appears to have detrimental effects on insulin sensitivity and longevity. The problem with the approach is that the oxidation is not primarily damaging, it has a biological function. Because ROS are generated in the process of metabolism, it was initially thought this was merely an unavoidable cost or trade-off of ATP generation. And perhaps from an evolutionary standpoint, it once was. Anything that is the result of a biological process, on the other hand, becomes a marker of that process, which other processes can use as information. As a result, the presence of ROS is not only a byproduct of metabolism, but also a de facto indicator of its rate. The ROS signal is used by many other processes, and it is one way biological processes are coordinated.
Okay, that is super interesting. So I want to make sure I'm understanding this again. Because so ROS is reactive oxygen species, which we have been told are negative because they're a byproduct, right? And they're supposedly negative, which is why you need antioxidants. So this is saying that yes, although it does have a negative contribution to disease, it also has a positive role in the body as basically as the metabolic processes take place, you produce ATP, you've got a byproduct of reactive ROS. The body is basically using the quantity of ROS as a signal to jumpstart other processes. Is that the way that's the way I'm reading it?
Yeah, it says that this signal is used by many other processes and is one way biological processes are coordinated.
Right. So it has a role.
Yeah. I've known for a while that, like, okay, oxidation, that actually causes aging, right? And, has detrimental effects. So ROS, basically. But then also, I remember reading something where I was like, wait a minute. So oxidants are good. So why are we taking antioxidants then, or why are we trying to get antioxidants? Because
Maybe
there's
it's excess.
So I think that's what this is.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe it's the bad, standard American crap diet is producing excess. Like we need reactive oxidation, the oxidation, but we have too much, maybe.
That's entirely possible. That it's overkill, basically.
Probably.
Yeah.
As is everything else really resulting from the SAD diet.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's just put our whole systems out of whack. So when you've got, especially since it's showing that it's a way that the biological processes are coordinated. So it's sort of a chain reaction there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Interesting.
Yeah. So given that ROS is a normal product of metabolism and also an important signal, but that excess, ROS can cause runaway damage, it is not surprising that in a healthy individual, ROS is very tightly regulated, such that it is neither too little nor too much. NRF2 is an important contributor to this regulation. The result of NRF2 activation is to mitigate damage in part by stimulating the endogenous synthesis of antioxidants. So in other words, you trigger your own.
Yeah.
In a normal, healthy person, oxidation is kept in check simply by sensing oxidation and responding with antioxidation. This system is overwhelmed when there is a lot of damage. In this situation, external NRF2 stimulation can promote increased defense and antioxidation. A wide range of modern medicines, both pharmaceutical and herbal, are mediated at least in part by NRF2 stimulation.
Interesting.
So an immediate problem with this strategy, however, is dose. Any medicine that works by provoking the immune system will have a hormetic pattern of effect. That is, with any toxin, exposure to a xenobiotic will be beneficial to a point after which it overwhelms the system's ability to respond. This is exactly what we see with NRF2 promoters in medicine, where the curve of benefit eventually becomes negative. So you see figure 2.7. The difficulty is in assessing at what dose each response would occur, given that the prior health of an individual and the sum of the intervention he is undergoing will determine how much more stimulation is tolerable. The appropriate dose will depend on how much NRF2 stimulation is already occurring from other sources. Keto adaptation already involves NRF2 activation. In an in vitro study of rat hippocampal mitochondria, it was discovered that oxidation increases over the first few days, leading to an increase of NRF2 and enough endogenous antioxidation to compensate for this effect. After 3 weeks, the long-term persistent effect was a net increase in NRF2 and a net decrease in peroxide and ROS concentrations when compared to the higher carb baseline. One implication of this is that in the ketogenic context, the therapeutic dose of an NRF2 promoter may be lower, as well as the threshold at which benefit gives way to detriment. On one hand, this theoretically supports a more plausible benefit of sulforaphane derived from food in ketogenic dieters in particular. On the other hand, it raises a red flag, particularly for patients who exhibit signs of overactive immune activity for other reasons. Does this note of caution extend to the ketogenic diet itself, given that a ketogenic diet may persistently activate NRF2 relative to higher carb diets? Perhaps. However, ketogenic diets exert their benefits through multiple mechanisms, including from the ketone bodies themselves, increased circulation of highly unsaturated fatty acids, PUFAs, growth and transcription factors such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, and NAD positive, and decreased blood glucose and inflammatory cytokines.
Okay. So interesting. So this curve could actually be skewed to the left on a ketogenic diet so that you can experience the detrimental effects of it sooner. But they're saying that's not a reason not to be on it because there's so many other benefits. That's what I'm reading.
What now? I missed that.
So they were saying that on a ketogenic diet, you can, let's see, there's an increase in NRF2, but it said that one implication is that the therapeutic dose may be lower and the threshold at which the benefit gives way to, as well as the threshold at which the benefit gives way to detriment. So actually the curve would be flatter.
What was the NRF2 again?
The NRF2 is what we produce naturally to, it's an antioxidant, right?
It's
It's to mitigate
Any
damage.
NFE2 related factor. It's the mechanism is via NFE2 related factor. It's a transcription factor involved in regulating antioxidation and detoxification.
It stimulates our bodies to produce our own antioxidants.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were saying what now?
So on a ketogenic diet, so if you look at the graph, this is for, I guess, just a normal, not a ketogenic diet that looks like the benefit is the yellow part. And so there's like increasing benefit for, as an antioxidant or activating antioxidants, but then there's a decrease in benefit. So it becomes more detrimental after a period of time. They're saying on a ketogenic diet, it takes a lower amount to experience the benefit, but then you also experience the drop off into, it being detrimental sooner. So it's going to be a different curve on a ketogenic diet. But what I'm reading is it's saying it's something to note that there's a caution there, but the benefits basically, it sounds like that they're saying the benefits outweigh the risk.
And how would we know if we got to that point?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. How do you even know whether I mean, this is just automatically happening inside of our bodies.
I mean, this is kind of where we use Dr. Berry's theory of like, don't worry too much about it. Just, just real quick food and your body will take care of itself.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Nelson.
Hey, Dr. Nelson.
Yeah. But the fact is, it is happening. And this is one thing that is maybe not as good when it comes to ketogenic diets. So.
All right. I think we're going to finish this chapter. Evan is done with his test. He's been in the car for probably 10 minutes now. So I don't want to go too much longer. That was his little peace finger.
Okay, let's see. Do we have a thumbs up for how the test went? Okay,
all right.
Good. It wasn't as bad as he thought it would be. So it was a psychology final.
Oh, nice. Okay,
but anyway, so I don't want to keep him too long in here, just with mom reading and stuff. So let's wrap up chapter 2, and Lynn, if we can go ahead and just do it and maybe not discuss an awful lot.
Yeah, me. I know. I want to understand stuff. So, all right.
Oh, me too. But I'm just
your turn to read, Kim.
No, I think it's yours.
Is it mine?
Okay. Yeah, you haven't gone yet, have you?
All right, I'll bring us home. Okay, so section 2.5.1, animal source bioactives. If we look in contrast at bioactives of animal origin, they are unsurprisingly domestic or synthesizable compounds, precisely because they were in fact synthesized by another animal. Therefore, these are typically classifiable as conditionally essential nutrients, which I guess we're going back to this other slide. That slide. Okay. And they are usually amino acids or fatty acids. Correspondingly, conditionally essential nutrients are for this reason often of animal origin only, such as taurine and cholesterol, or simply more commonly found in animal source foods such as carnitine and choline. An example can be found in both plant and animal foods as dietary nucleotides. Taurine is an amino acid that is high in meat and fish, but absent in plants, such that plasma concentrations are low in vegetarians. It is an essential nutrient for infants who cannot synthesize it, but only considered conditionally essential in adults who have limited synthesis. It is the most prevalent free amino acid in tissues, especially heart, brain, and liver. Given that it neither is incorporated into proteins nor participates in many reactions, its function has been difficult to determine, and it was once considered merely an end product. However, it is now known to play roles in brain and retinal development, calcium modulation, osmosis and electrolyte balance, membrane stabilization, and immunity, and has been hypothesized to reduce advanced glycation products. In interventional studies, supplemental taurine has shown improvement in diabetes and insulin regulation, cardiovascular disease prevention, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It has even been suggested that high taurine intake is responsible for the association between longer lifespans with certain geographical regions such as Spain, Portugal, and Japan. Carnitine is also conditionally essential with limited biosynthesis. It can be found in some plant sources, but rarely, and vegetarians have lower concentrations, as well as reduced capacity for carnitine uptake in skeletal muscle. It has important roles in fatty acid metabolism, heart function, and the immune system. Echoing findings for taurine, carnitine may be fully essential in newborns, and relative deficiencies of it develop and associated with multiple diseases, especially of the heart and liver, that in turn may benefit from its supplementation. Carnitine requires vitamin C for its synthesis, and therefore dietary carnitine may spare vitamin C. Because fatty acid oxidation is upregulated in ketogenic diets, carnitine may be especially needed in that context. And in fact, some studies have suggested that a ketogenic diet depletes carnitine. However, as these were in the context of epilepsy treatment and anticonvulsants can deplete carnitine, the effects of the diet alone is not clear. Nonetheless, inclusion of carnitine sources during a ketogenic diet may be warranted. Dietary nucleotides and nucleosides are examples of bioactives found in both plant and animal source foods. Because they are components of RNA and DNA, they can be found in foods high in purines and pyrimidines, such as meat, but especially seafood and organ meats, as well as legumes and yeasts. Exogenous nucleotide sources appear to be critical for immune competence as well as intestinal development and recovery. Breast milk is also high in nucleotides, probably for these reasons. In animal studies, dietary nucleotides have increased brain phosphatidylcholine, whatever that is, DHA, AA, and improved learning and increased longevity and helped intestinal repair after varied injuries. Purines have often been implicated in gout because their breakdown contributes to total uric acid load. However, gout is not a necessary result of high uric acid, and is in the absence of pre-existing gout or in metabolic syndrome, high uric acid may have benefits. That's interesting, specifically for cognition. Okay, that's interesting. All right, when a conditionally essential substance is shown to provide medical benefit, there is an argument to be made that our bodies, quote unquote, expected those substances in food, which is why synthesis is low. Given that meat has always been an important part of the human diet, animal source bioactives may be essential in the quantitative sense, implying that synthesis is limited to suboptimal levels. Nonetheless, many of the above studies demonstrating therapeutic benefits of taurine and carnitine used quantities that exceeded plausible food intake. That was dumb of them, leaving it unclear how much benefit, if any, would be obtained at lower concentrations. For reviews including therapeutic doses used, please see, and they gave a couple references here, for taurine and carnitine respectively. Elucidating what conditions would make these nutrients essential could reveal that essentiality is for some of these the common case, not a special one. A similar argument could be, and has been made for xenobiotics, that the body functions better with them in a way that suggests they are expected evolutionarily. However, as previously stated, this argument is predicated on their ability to act through food, and unlike taurine and carnitine, food level doses are known to be ineffective. As a result of the dose considerations and mechanisms of actions, it appears that the role of xenobiotics is more medicinal than nutritive. So 2.6 conclusion, one last paragraph and we're done with this chapter. Animal and plant-based foods can both provide calories and essential vitamins and minerals, but the total nutritional effect of individual food items will be determined not only by their direct contributions to chemical and material needs, but also by the other components they bring with them. Other food components' biological effects can be viewed through an immunological lens to determine whether they are simply contributing more resources than the body could make itself, conditionally essential nutrients, or whether they are foreign substances that trigger a boundary challenge. Sparing functions are provided by conditionally essential nutrients, whereas xenobiotics, such as phytochemicals, promote improved defense and repair. Both may have a positive impact on health and are active research topics. Okay, yay. We finished. We finished. So that's just basically saying some of these anti-nutrients are actually beneficial because they help keep our defense system strong. That's what I'm getting out of that. So just like we need like bad bacteria. I remember taking microbiology. They said you need 15% of your gut microbiome should be harmful bacteria to keep your immune system active.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right. Chapter 3 is the endocrine system.
Yay.
So we're going to start getting into we're going to get talking about specific disease processes and functions of the body. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It only took us 23 sessions
to get through 2 chapters. It's because we're all talkers.
We are.
Well, Carrie's not naturally, but we bring it out in her.
I don't know. I'm starting to think that Carrie is quite the talker.
I go in spurts.
Yeah.
I know. I figured out that I get more of my talking out on camera, and I don't really talk a whole lot when I'm not on camera.
That's funny.
Awesome. All right, good. Well, congratulate your son on his good, successful completion of his course. That's fantastic. Way to go.
Now, let's see. Next week is the what will it be? The 19th, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we had talked about, are we doing the 19th or?
I'm fine with doing the 19th.
I'm good with it, but I know we had were talking about it and really hadn't decided. I mean, I'm good with it if y'all are.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was the 19th. I thought it was like the day after Christmas.
I think we were talking about what we were going to do for the 26th. I'm fine with keeping it. The following, let's see, the following Thursday. Yeah, because I'm going to be in Arizona. We're leaving January 3rd. We're returning back January 16th. So the only day for me is the 16th of January, which is a Thursday, is a travel day for me. So I know that that's one that I have to skip, but I'm okay with everything up to that point.
Okay.
So, but it's up to you guys.
I think that maybe we should just after Christmas, we should just take off till after the first of the year, but I don't know.
That's only 1 week.
I mean, till the holidays are over or whatever.
Yeah. So are you saying
do next week and then take off until whatever the first Thursday in January is?
That's January 2nd.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
That way, because the day after Christmas is usually kind of
tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right. Cool. So we'll be here next Thursday. Then we'll have a break for the day after Christmas, and then we'll be back after the new year.
Okay.
All right. That
All right,
sounds
guys.
good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.